The Checkpoint is presented by GM Pharma, the first international multinational pharmaceutical company in Georgia. GM Pharma, to serve those who need it most.
Anzor Mekhrishvili will tell us more on the industry, sanctions, and overall cybersecurity challenges that today's complicated and devastating reality offers the world. I sat with the head of Cyber and Information Security Department at BDO Georgia for an eye-to-eye interview at Forbes Studio. Anzor, thank you for being with us and taking our questions. Today I want us to speak about the chip industry, which has become quite central to this war, to sanctions, to everything. What kind of industry are we talking about?
Thank you for the invite. Nowadays, chips are the most important parts almost in all techniques we use in everyday life. For example, chips are very important parts in smartphones, laptops, supercomputers, even refrigerators or TVs, in cars, of course. And nowadays we see that there is some shortage of chips on global market, and we see that there are some delays regarding producing some techniques on global market.
Which has started, by the way, during the pandemic. Pandemic also had a very big impact on the shortages that we are talking about, right?
There are some reasons regarding this shortage. One of the reasons was pandemic situation when millions of people stayed at home, and the demand on techniques increased, such as on smartphones, laptops, on some gaming consoles such as PlayStation, etc. That's why this shortage became, this was the one of the reasons of shortage. The second reason of shortage was some sanctions from United States of America to Chinese companies, which was the main provider of chips to American market.
Now we see that Russia is also ostracized from that, right? Can we say that, by the way, because we know, for example, Taiwan said no to Russia, but we do not know what China has to decide yet.
Yeah, on the global market, the huge provider of chips is Taiwanese company, who is providing chips to the most valuable companies such as Apple, Microsoft, Intel, AMD, and etc. And they rejected to give to Russian companies the chips, which is a mandatory parts of some important techniques, which is used in daily life, in military, in other important industries. But we couldn't say that Chinese companies rejected, because we see that there are some restrictions for Chinese companies on American market, and their second huge market maybe is Russian. That's why they can't reject this.
Yeah, what impact can this have on Russians in their daily lives, or you also mentioned military?
During this war against Ukraine, we see that Russian companies, Russian manufacturers can't provide some materials. They don't have enough materials for military equipment. They don't have enough materials for simple home subjects, which is used for citizens of Russia. It's very important for them. It's very important for each country to have useful things for their citizens, and of course, Russian market is very huge, and it's important to have such materials to produce important
So we can say that in this direction also international sanctions are working, or
yes,
US sanctions.
Of course, we can say.
What are some of the risks that are associated with this war, apart from what we see in regards of lives, in regards of IDPs flowing to Europe? But there are also risks on the cybersecurity side as well, right? Why do we not specify these risks also and understand these risks in our daily lives?
Cybersecurity is one of the most important parts in daily life in 21st century, because every day the technology is improving. We need improved services, we need improved technologies, we need access on any data from anywhere, and this is related with some risks, related with some cyber security risks. For every people, personal data is very important. Their banking information is very important, and it's important for each country, for each organization to secure this data. We need more awareness in society. We need more awareness in private organizations, even in government organizations.
What is your take on Anonymous?
In general, the activities which is provided by Anonymous is illegal. But nowadays we see that Anonymous...
But it's a war. Let's say it's a war. We have different rules of game, probably.
Yeah, that's
right?
why for us, Anonymous is standing on the correct side. That's why there is some positive feelings against them. But if we will be under their attack, for example, our feelings will be changed. Yeah.
Of course. We often say that, for example, economically, this war can have some kind of like spillover effects on Georgia, on the region. Can we say that in your sphere as well?
Yeah. We see that there are many people who are working in IT, in cybersecurity. Ukraine was and Russian was, and they are one of the most developed and most important players in region regarding IT and cybersecurity. Because, for example, service we can take from these countries, for example, from Ukraine. Human resources are cheaper than European or American services. I mean human resources and man per hour price, for example. We see that there are many people who lost their working places. They are on the market and they are trying to find some work. We also see that from Georgia, for example, many IT developers, IT specialists who had huge experience in this field, they are trying to go out the country because pandemic situation changed the market. Now IT employees and IT developers can work remotely from their home places in another country, in another companies from in companies from other countries, and they are in. I can't say the exact period, but there will be, I think, some deficit of human resources on Georgia market too.
Yeah. Would you?
One of the reasons is these companies are paying in USD dollars.
Yeah, which is important.
It makes them not competitive for Georgian companies.
Yeah, I understand fully. About the Russian market, did you mean Russian IT specialists specifically, or is it bigger than that?
One side is IT specialists, but another side we see that Russian Federation has powerful cybersecurity and cyber attack capabilities. They are dangerous for each country, for every country. And we see that after 2008, after the 5 days duration war with Georgia, there is some hybrid war, because one side is some military activities and the other side there is some cybersecurity activities against the critical infrastructure of each country and the critical industries of the country.
Can we say that that can be part of the also what we call more broadly like informational war? Is that part of that, or is that completely like different field of risks that we have to evaluate?
Information war and spreading some disinformation on society is a weapon for Russian and for every government, because they can manipulate human activities, their minds, based on the information they are spreading in through TV sets or through internet. And we see, for example, Russian citizens that they support their president, they support their army because they don't have alternative information, and they think that information which is going through their governmental TV and social media, it is true.
Yeah, to some extent, of course, and we could argue about that there. So what are some of the tools that we have to withstand this type of like digital or cyber war?
I think the first and most important part is awareness. Awareness for each employee of the company, of each citizen of the country, because the lowest secured part in cybersecurity is a human. First of all, we have to try to teach them what to do in critical situations, how to separate correct information from false information. Don't trust to any information they can see in internet or in TV. Of course, there is huge investments from government or some private sector in technical parts to secure the data and to set up some business continuity of their business processes. And it's dependent on technologies. They need not little amount of money, and it is very important that first of all government shall work with private sector, and after that the management of companies in the private sector shall think about it.
Mm-hmm. And work with their employees also to be aware. Out of 10 points, where would you position Georgia in that skills that you just mentioned?
There are some statistics in worldwide which are provided from some trusted organizations. During the last years, the statistics can show us that Georgia is going back, but my feeling is that we need improvement. I think we are on the 5th position from 10. We need improvement on government side, regulation side, private sector, population.
Very diplomatic answer, very. And do you see that this terrible, devastating, awful war might become a motivation to think more about cybersecurity? Or should it become a motivation to think about it?
The lesson which now we are studying from the war against Ukraine, we have to work how to improve our critical infrastructure, how to secure our critical infrastructure. We have to be ready against the same situation we see in Ukraine. On the one hand, we have to improve our cybersecurity capabilities, and other hand, we have to work with citizens and to be ready against war, for example.
I'm asking this question because we see that, for example, Europe is slowly learning on its mistakes. We heard from Madame der Leyen just a few weeks ago that, for example, they will be bringing the whole chip industry into Europe. By the way, do you think that could balance those risks that we talked about the China's stance in this situation? Do you think that could work for the sanctions and not against
2 years
them?
ago, whole world was dependent on Chinese companies. For example, Huawei was one of the main player on this market. I think after sanctions from United States of America and some sanctions from Europe, the countries are thinking how to diversify market, how to secure and ensure the supply of chain, because they will stop their manufacturing without the chips, for example. And for example, Chinese companies can reject to providing some chips to European or USA companies, and I think the governments of normal countries are thinking about how to secure real manufacturing and not to depend on Chinese or less trusted countries and companies.
Yes, and in general increase the security, right?
Yeah, of course.
In all directions. Thank you so much, and may we meet in better times. Thank you.
The Checkpoint is presented by GM Pharma, the first international multinational pharmaceutical company in Georgia. GM Pharma, to serve those who need it most.